Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Taylor Thomas. Topping the news tonight, trouble for the Biden White House. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland has appointed a special counsel to look into the reported mishandling of classified documents by the president. The disclosure of the documents was recently reported to the Justice Department and relates to Biden's time as vice president. One set of documents was found in a D.C. office Biden used after his vice presidency. A second set was found at his home in Delaware. The special counsel named is Robert Hur. He's a former Maryland Attorney General appointed by President Donald Trump.
The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter. The special counsel will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of any official of the department, but he must comply with the regulations, procedures, and policies of the department.
Special counsel Robert Hur will look into who brought the classified documents to Biden's home and office, if Biden knew about the files, and what was inside the documents. The president says he is fully cooperating with the review. Tenants and advocacy groups rallied in Annapolis today. Groups like CASA and Jewish United for Justice convened at Lawyers Mall to throw their support behind several housing bills. Some of the bills include the Tenant Safety Act, which will allow groups of renters to sue their landlord. CTV's News spoke to Jessica Guerrero of Montgomery County, who lives at the Rock Creek Wood Apartments. She says her apartment is simply unlivable and that management has been hostile towards her.
I've gotten infestations even in a refrigerator, droppings. I see it in my son's clothing, my son's, his toys. My children cannot even be on the floor at this point. My son of 7 months, he can't just learn to crawl because I have to have him with me.
So there's several pieces of legislation that we are eyeing that we really want to get done this session. Right now, housing for a lot of people is not only expensive, but there's a lot of needs and voids that needs to be filled in order for people to live in habitable conditions, but also dignified conditions.
The groups are also backing emergency rental assistance and just cause eviction bills. Maryland legislative leaders say gun control is a top priority for the 2023 General Assembly session. They say ghost guns are becoming a serious problem in the state. Meantime, Democrats are discussing ways to rein in concealed carry permit laws for handguns. That comes after a recent Supreme Court decision forcing states to re-examine their handgun requirements.
We've got some tough issues we were working on in the area of public safety, reforming our criminal justice and juvenile justice system, looking at our concealed carry law to make sure it complies with the ruling from the Supreme Court, but also protects Marylanders by keeping unlawful guns out of the hands of those who should not have them.
Look, this ghost gun issue is just an epidemic. It's unbelievable. It's a hard issue. How do you stop multiple pieces being mailed? It is very, very difficult. We have got to hold people accountable. We've got to do whatever we can to stop it, because what we've seen is the growth of these ghost guns has made our communities less safe, and it's got to stop.
State leaders are watching recent laws in New York that bar concealed weapons from certain areas, including Times Square. Governor-elect Wes Moore adds 6 people to key roles in his administration. Moore has appointed Dr. Laura Herrera Scott as Secretary of Health and Portia Wu as Secretary of Labor. Rafael Lopez will serve as Secretary of Human Services, and Atif Chandri will head the General Services Agency. Anthony Woods has been named Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and Vincent Schiraldi will serve as Secretary of Juvenile Services. Moore says his administration will be the most diverse in Maryland's history. Here are the latest Maryland COVID dashboard. 1,000 new COVID-19 cases have been reported today. 7 deaths have occurred over the last 24 hours, and 835 people are hospitalized with the virus. Meantime, the positivity rate has fallen slightly to 13.27%. You're watching CTV News. I'm Taylor Thomas. Back in a moment.
Home. It should be a space where we all feel safe. But for some, home can be a dangerous place with no escape. But while one voice might go unheard, a chorus cannot be ignored. Together, we can help free those harmed by domestic and sexual violence. Join the chorus and say, no more.
Good evening and welcome back. Now that Congress is back in session and the House has flipped to a Republican majority, will the wish list for Democrats change? Senator Ron Ben Cardin, that is, recently spoke to CTV about Maryland's top priorities.
Working on housing issues, the Chesapeake Bay, some of our economic empowerment issues. We have a lot of issues that are priorities for us left over from the last Congress. We had a great 117th Congress. We got a lot done with the American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We now need to implement that, but we still need to do more for economic opportunity dealing with inflation.
Meantime, the Republican-led House passed two abortion-related measures yesterday. One condemns attacks on pro-life facilities and groups and churches. The other forces medical practitioners to provide care to infants who survive an abortion, a very rare occurrence. Neither is expected to advance in the Senate. Maryland Attorney Anthony Brown joins a coalition of 22 attorney generals in an amicus brief to two cases brought before the U.S. Supreme Court. The cases concern the Biden administration's targeted cancellation of student debt that was to address continuing effects of the pandemic. The debt cancellation plan was challenged in 2022. The federal government is asking the High Court to lift injunctions that were granted by the lower courts that blocked the program known as HEROES Act. The states argue that Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona does have the authority to provide limited debt cancellation to prevent borrowers from experiencing grave financial hardship because of the COVID-19 pandemic. One Prince George's lawmaker wants men to have the option of a DNA paternity test immediately after a child is born. Senator Ron Watson says that option should be available at all hospitals. Watson says he was falsely led to believe that he had supported a child that was his offspring that was not his child.
I was one of these unfortunate folks who spent 10 years paying child support for a child that was not mine, and I didn't find out till 10 years later through a paternity test. I've listened to a lot of fathers in our community, and looking at the total number of single-family homes, it's very important that men who are fathers know they're fathers at the moment the child is born before that birth certificate is signed. Because if you were in an unfortunate situation like myself, the courts, after a certain period of time, will deem it in the best interest of the child. So my bill simply states that at the moment of childbirth, a father is offered a paternity test on the spot before a birth certificate is issued.
Many states have laws that limit a man's ability to contest paternity if he's already signed a birth certificate. 3 teens, a USB cord, and a stolen car. That's what Prince George's County Police are investigating tonight. Police say a 17-year-old male used a USB cord to start and steal a Kia Optima from the Landover area. Police pulled over the Kia earlier this week in Clinton. The 17-year-old was arrested and charged. 2 female juveniles were released to their parents at the scene. Investigators say the thieves have been using USB cords as a method to steal certain Kias and Hyundais. And we'll have more news and sports right after the break. Stay with us.
I'm Simon Bruggs, and coming up, the Wizards survived a close game against the Bulls last night. Meanwhile, the Caps fall to the Flyers. Stay tuned.
Serving my country changed my life forever, and when I got home, every day was a struggle. I felt trapped. But everything changed the day my family received a specially adapted custom home from Homes for Our Troops. Now we have a safe and accessible home to enjoy the freedom I fought for.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Welcome back. Many across the nation will be celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. this Monday by participating in a day of service. The ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Upsilon Tau Omega chapter came to our studio today to tell us about their coat drive and why helping those battling homelessness in Prince George's County is so important. Our International Office of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated has an annual MLK Day of Service. This year, it is the MLK We Are One.
Our motto is service to all mankind. So at Upsilon Tau Omega, we have various programs that we conduct throughout the year to be of service to the residents in Southern Prince George's County.
Our community has a large population of the homeless, and with the anticipated cold winter, we know that they have needs. Coats will help us to help keep our community's residents warm. This Monday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. you can donate coats, hats, gloves, and other warm garments of any size at the Tanger outlets in Oxon Hill. You can find the drop-off location outside the Ralph Lauren store. Just look for the pink and green balloons. The Bowie State University Chorale is celebrating Martin Luther King Day with a special performance this weekend. Under the direction of Brandon Felder, the chorale will perform anthems, spirituals, gospel, and inspirational music. It's called Let Freedom Sing.
So we have pieces that are in African and Haitian, as well as several Negro spirituals that the students are doing. We have a special guest who's doing a Mahalia Jackson Sings. As most of the people know, Mahalia Jackson was King's favorite singer. So they're doing like a three-piece tribute to Mahalia Jackson. And we're closing out with a selection entitled The Birmingham Letter, which is Dr. King's words that were actually penned to music.
Let Freedom Sing will be performed this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Southern Area Aquatics and Recreation Complex on Missouri Avenue in Brandywine. For more information, go to the link right there on your screen. And now for our sports page with our very own Simon Buggs.
Came out victorious in a close game against the Chicago Bulls last night, 100-97. With this win, the Wizards avoided what would have been 4 straight losses. Wizards forward Kyle Kuzma, who had a team-high 21 points and hit the game-winning shot, spoke on what went through his mind leading up to it.
I looked left, and a lot of teams were forcing me left, so I just had DeLon just kind of get flat a little bit, so I knew I had Caruso on me, and he's one of the better defenders in the league, so just giving myself a chance to go pick either way instead of just being directed in one. Taj came up. I was trying to get downhill at first, but I noticed that he was up at the level a little bit, and it probably would have been hard to get through, probably no call again. So, I just threw the ball to an open spot on the floor and just rose up and shot it and went in.
The Wizards will look to make it 2 straight wins as they go up against the New York Knicks tomorrow at home at 7 o'clock. Moving on to the NHL, the Capitals weren't able to come on top in their game last night. They were beaten by the Philadelphia Flyers 5-3. This loss is the 3rd one the Caps have had in their last 5 games, but they will have a chance to redeem themselves as they match up against the Flyers again, this time at home on Saturday. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
Checking out our weather forecast tonight, rain with possible thunderstorms and a low around 48 degrees. Tomorrow, some of that rain will carry over into the morning, but come noon, it will be mostly sunny with temperatures, get this, ranging from 31 to 52 degrees. Saturday and Sunday, the sun will be out and the temperatures will range from the mid-20s to the 40s. And that is your CTV News Update. I'm Taylor Thomas. Good night.